I'm Jonathan Schwartz, work on Glif, and it's nice to see many familiar faces and also some new ones. If you were at the last DESPA or if you've read about Glif, you might find some of this presentation not with that much new information. There's two more Glif presentations this week. We're going to do a live demo here tomorrow so we can show you in action a lot of what we're talking about here. And then at the Filecoin Dev Summit, we're doing a more technical talk on one specific part of Glif, and I'll tell you which part that is in a few minutes. So yeah, I think it's important to understand the history of Glif. We've been around actually for quite a long time. Before Filecoin mainnet launched, actually, we started building for Filecoin in 2019. So we actually created the first Filecoin web wallet, the first Filecoin multisig wallet, the first Filecoin notary. We run, Filecoin nodes. We do a whole lot of sort of work in this ecosystem, and at this point, it was almost 2 years ago. We got a grant from the Filecoin Foundation to just basically focus on the most important problems for the network. And pretty much at that point in time, we decided that figuring out better ways to solve Filecoin's capital inefficiencies was really important for the network. And so we pretty much just got started right then and there building lending protocols for Filecoin. And in May of 2023, we launched. So this is just a brief history of Glif. A lot of details missing, but just so you know, we've been here for a while and we're not leaving anytime soon. So I want to talk and start with the problems for storage providers. There's a whole bunch. Being a storage provider is very difficult, tricky, and challenging. But here we're focusing on a few problems that we chose to solve at Glif. So the first one is that almost everywhere you go in the Filecoin ecosystem today, if you want to borrow Filecoin as a storage provider, you need to give up custody of your miner actor or miner actors. And this has a lot of counterparty risk. And it's not the best way or the safest way to run DeFi or lending on Filecoin. On top of that problem, because you have to assign your owner address of your miner over to a lender as a storage provider, we suffer from something called capital provider lock-in. So as soon as you decide to work with like one lender, you're almost like stuck with them with that miner, and it's not very flexible. So and the last problem is that with lenders, at least a year ago or before DeFi sort of came out, the lending terms were very inflexible. You didn't have much sort of customization of how you want to borrow, when you want to borrow, how long you want to borrow for, when do you want to pay it back, what do you want to do with your funds. And so these are the problems that we decided to focus on and solve with the FVM almost 2 years ago. And that sets us up for Glif Pools. So Glif Pools is this unique DeFi protocol that we built for the Filecoin network, which allows us to deploy many different staking pools onto Filecoin, and one storage provider can actually borrow from all of them. And in doing that, the storage provider also retains custody of their miners. And this concept of retaining custody of your miner is what the talk on Thursday at the Filecoin Dev Summit will be about. It's a more technical talk about how that works. So Glif Pools, just at a high level, there's basically the Glif Pools ecosystem, or the DeFi sort of architecture. The most important thing for storage providers to understand is this concept called the agent. And again, this is what we're going to talk about. I'm going to demo the agent tomorrow and also talk more technically about what the agent can do and how you can build your own protocols and apps on top of agents as well. But the important thing to note is that the agent is a smart contract that the storage provider deploys. So if you want to borrow Filecoin from Glif, you deploy an agent, and then that agent becomes the owner of your miner, but you own your agent. Glif does not own your agent, and so it's completely self-custodied in that way. And once you have an agent, the agent is actually able to borrow from the different pools. Right now, there's just one, and we call it the Infinity Pool, and you can borrow Filecoin from it. But over the years and months ahead of us, we could see more different types of pools where maybe you could borrow USDC or use other types of collateral to borrow from the pool and so on. So it's a really extensible architecture that will grow with the ecosystem of storage providers on Filecoin. Okay, so just to take a step back, one more checkpoint, because I know I'm talking maybe quickly, but the Glif pools architecture allows us to deploy many different types of staking pools on Filecoin. Right now, there's just one, the Infinity Pool. And so for the rest of this talk, I'm just going to talk more specifically about the rules of the Infinity Pool and how you can start borrowing from the Infinity Pool right away if you want. So just a couple stats and milestones. We've already deployed more than 2 million fill to storage providers from the Infinity Pool. I think there's over 2.5 million staked. And we have several million more that should be coming in over the next few months. So there's a lot of liquidity that's coming this way. Right now, the APR that the storage providers pay is 16.2% flat. This, we could talk a long time about rates, and if you have more questions about rates, come and find me. We can talk about it. But right now, 16.2% is this like equilibrium that took us a little while to find, where if the rates go any lower, then the stakers they might leave and the liquidity dries up. And if the rates go any higher, then storage providers, especially given the state of the network, they might not be able to afford their payments. And so rates are tricky, and we have better, more sophisticated models in the works. But right now, to keep things simple, and because it's working quite well, the rates are at 16.2. So let's talk about like how it works a little bit once you borrow from the pool. So first, when you borrow from the Infinity Pool, there's no due date. So you can just borrow them for as long as you want. And the only thing that you have to do is you have to make a weekly payment. So instead of actually like borrowing fill, it's kind of more like renting fill for as long as you need it. As long as you have the fill, you make your weekly payments, and whenever you're done with it, you can pay it back and leave. You can also borrow more every day to match your ceiling speed. You could borrow some up front and pay it back. It's super flexible, and it's on your terms. And that's really important to us when we were designing this protocol. So in terms of like a common question that we get from storage providers, how much can I borrow? And so there's kind of two important rules here. One is that you can borrow 1-to-1 with the amount of Filecoin that's on your miner. So let's say you deploy an agent, and then you put a miner into that agent that has, let's say, 100,000 Filecoin on it in like pledged collateral to the Filecoin network, then you'll be able to borrow 100,000 Filecoin from the Infinity Pool. And this is a really safe model that it helps the liquidity providers and the stakers feel comfortable about putting more Filecoin down because it's safe. And lastly, the storage provider, in order to borrow, they need to be able to afford their weekly payments. And so if you're not earning enough in block rewards to make your payments, then you won't be able to borrow that amount. And we have a whole bunch of really good documentation, both translated in English and Chinese, and more is written about all these rule sets on there. More like the most important thing for us, more than like any sort of capital efficiency, is safety. The one thing that like we can't let happen, absolutely, is letting anyone get hacked. DeFi is a scary place, and for us, we've spent a significant amount of our budget on security research and audits. At this point, we've done 3, and we'll continue to do them. So just so you can build confidence, this is like Glif. We've been around, we've been building for Filecoin for 4+ years at this point, so we're really good with Filecoin code, but we're also spending a lot of money with the top auditors in DeFi throughout crypto. If you want to read more, this is maybe a little hard to read, but there's our doc site, which is docs.glif.io, and the translated version is available right on there. We also have full video tutorials that are also translated for getting an agent set up and borrowing your first Filecoin. And also, like, our job and my job right now is to help you. So if you have any questions or any trouble, you can always come find me. Hit us up on Telegram, Twitter, wherever you can find us, and we will gladly answer your questions and help you out. Jump on a call, whatever you want to do. Lastly, just to kind of like look forward, we've spent an enormous amount of time on the economic models and the security of the system, and not as much time as we'd have liked to spend on our website and our like designs and features that people can see. So over the next like probably 6 months, the available tools that we'll have on our website will be amazing. They will make your job a lot easier. And yeah, so I'm just kind of foreshadowing the fact that the technology that you can see in the next few months is going to be a lot better and more powerful and more helpful. And I think that's it for now. I don't know if there's time for questions or yeah, whatever. But yeah, anyone have any questions?